Hey yo everyone! The Switch 2 has been out for about a week now, and even though Mario Kart World is great and Cyberpunk 2077 is a mind-boggling port, there aren't too many Switch 2 exclusives at the moment. So, I decided to compile a list of some Switch 1 games that make a noticeable leap on the Switch 2. Unfortunately, not every game was instantaneously fixed with the upgraded Switch 2 hardware, and might need an additional patch to really make the most of the souped up specs, such as Batman Arkham Knight, the GTA trilogy, or Borderlands 3, but until then, those games are still massively improved upon from their original Switch 1 versions. I'm not going to go into the deep nitty-gritty when it comes to the technical stuff like variable resolution or frame rates. I'll leave those comparisons to the professionals. Anyway, this video today isn't even going to come close to recognizing all the great games out there that get an improvement on the Switch 2, so definitely feel free to leave your recommendations down below in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. We're going for 1,000 subs this year. Alright, let's get it. Alrighty, at number 10, let's kick things off with a double header. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and its ambitious sequel, Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, what else can be said about these games that hasn't already been said before? Breath of the Wild was honestly one of the most enlightening gaming experiences I've ever had, and it's touted as one of the greatest games ever to be made. We're starting to see its inspiration in other modern masterpieces as well, such as Elden Ring. The sheer amount of freedom the game gives you is just incredible, and thanks to the Switch 2's upgraded specs, that experience is now even better. Longer draw distances, 4K resolution, crispier textures, and a locked 60 frames per second make the Switch 2 version of these games the definitive way to play. Tears of the Kingdom takes the world of Breath of the Wild and makes it even bigger, adding in entirely new realms to explore. On top of that, you get some crazy new abilities to play around with. The amount of just sheer creative possibility that Tears gives to the players is astonishing, and it's even crazier to think that this was ever able to run on the original Switch at all. Just like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom plays noticeably better on the Switch 2. There's also this new Zelda Notes app that players can access, but the reception to that feature has been slightly mixed. Thankfully, you don't have to use the Zelda Notes if you don't want to. With that being said, if you don't have an NSO account, then the Switch 2 versions of these games will run you $10 a piece. But between these two masterpieces, you're gonna have hours and hours of gameplay to keep you busy on your brand new Switch 2. Next up at number 9, let's talk about Game Builder Garage. Holy moly, do you guys even remember this game? Game Builder Garage is essentially Nintendo's answer to PlayStation's Dreams game. It's pretty dope, but hasn't really gotten a lot of attention these past few years. In this game, you learn a simplified version of game development and then are allowed to create your own game with the tools provided to you. It's not the most complicated thing in the world, and you're not going to see any Game of the Year contenders in here, but I think it's a pretty neat experience and can help teach people the basic fundamentals of game design. And with the Switch 2 update, Game Builder Garage now lets players use the Joy-Con 2's mouse features, which just feels like a perfect fit. This isn't necessarily flipping the game on its head, but still, this is a fantastic way to showcase the mouse controls for the console. Unfortunately, the new control options plus a slight visual upgrade seems to be the only updates added to the game. I would have loved to have seen some new game mechanic modules added in, but oh well. This is still a massive improvement for anyone who likes tinkering around in Game Builder Garage. Down to number 8, we gotta talk about No Man's Sky. I mean, this is the game that just keeps on giving, isn't it? The original Switch played No Man's Sky fairly decent, I guess, but it definitely wasn't the best way to explore an infinitely procedurally generated universe. So when Hello Games announced that they would be dropping a free Switch 2 upgrade for the game, I was pumped. This update makes No Man's Sky and the Switch 2 one of the best ways to experience the game. Full multiplayer, cross-play, and cross-save support, massively increased density, 4K resolution, updated textures, a locked 30 frames per second with unlocked up to 60, touchscreen features, gyro controls. This is now a very legitimate way to enjoy No Man's Sky. And if you've been following this game at all, then you know that Hello Games will continue to support and improve the port over time. If you've only ever played this game on a regular Switch, then I think you're going to be blown away by this update. Maybe not as impressive as an Xbox Series X or PS5, but this is a damn good way to play No Man's Sky. Now, number 7, let's take a look back at Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. Or really, any of the Warriors games. I got Age of Calamity as a Christmas gift a few years back, and I really wanted to enjoy it, but man, the original Switch could not handle this game. The frame rate might as well have been in the single digits because once you got into the thick of things, the gameplay just grinded to a halt. The amount of enemies that you fight in a Warriors game is one of its trademark features, but because of the Switch's limited hardware and truthfully probably a lack of good optimization, a fully realized Hyrule Warriors game wasn't really possible on it. But with the Switch 2, I'm happy to report that the game is a whole new experience. The game runs at a solid 30 FPS with almost no noticeable stutters. I'm hoping an update will roll out that will bump up the resolution and frame rate to 60, but until then, Age of Calamity is at least playable now. And with Age of Imprisonment coming out later this year, it might not be a bad time to give Age of Calamity another go if you're like me and gave up on it with your Switch 1. Now next at number 6, let's talk about Civ 7. Sid Meier's Civilization 7 had some issues on the original Switch. Stuttering frame rates, really long loading times, ugly textures. It wasn't exactly a great port of the game. But one of its biggest problems was that it suffered from the same issue that all console versions of the game have: crappy controller support. I mean, it's fine, but it doesn't feel as natural as playing Civ 7 on a mouse and keyboard. And thanks to a $10 upgrade fee to the current Civ 7 owners, Switch 2 players can use their Joy-Con's mouse capabilities to play the game. Sure, it might not be as smooth an experience as using a traditional mouse and keyboard, but this is a way better way to play the game than controller. On top of that, the game also got a nice fidelity bump and performance updates. 4K at 30 FPS and 60 FPS at 1080p. I honestly think this might be the best way to play a Civ game if you don't have a PC. And if you're able to find a copy on sale for like 20 bucks or something, then you can just buy that and spend an additional $10 on the digital upgrade fee rather than buy a new $70 Switch 2 edition. Life hack. While we're on the topic of mouse controls, let's talk about
Fortnite.
Yes, Fortnite had a Switch 1 port, and it was pretty cool, but it was by no means the best way to play the game. And the Switch 2 probably isn't the best way to play Fortnite either, but it is a lot better than the previous generation. The frame rate and resolution get a drastic improvement, and the game now supports the Joy-Con 2's mouse controls. This was the first game I tested using the mouse feature, and while it is a fantastic improvement when it comes to aiming, I found it kind of awkward to use the face buttons when in mouse mode. I'm sure there's a way to remap the A, B, X, and Y buttons, but I didn't really look too much into it. Even if you don't use the mouse controls, Fortnite on the Switch 2 is a legit way to play the game now. Plus, with all of the new features that have been rolling out over the past couple of years, there's quite a bit of content to enjoy here. It doesn't feel like you're sacrificing too much anymore like you might have on the mobile version or, heck, even the Switch 1 version. If you're looking for a free-to-play multiplayer game with a considerable amount of content, then Fortnite is a great choice for your new console. Now, number 4, let's talk about Hogwarts Legacy. If online multiplayer games aren't really your thing, then Hogwarts Legacy might be right up your alley. The game was somehow ported to the original Switch, but that transition wasn't exactly as magical as one might have hoped. The game was very laggy, low frame rates with pixelated character models, and the loading times for every little thing in the game were just atrocious. Yeah, I guess it was impressive to see Hogwarts Legacy on a handheld, but unlike other ports, this version was just not worth your time. A few graphical and performance trade-offs here and there are expected when you're playing a big modern game on outdated hardware like the Switch, but this one just went a bit too far. With that being said, Hogwarts Legacy on the Switch 2 is a huge improvement. It might not be the definitive way to play, as I think the PS5 and Xbox Series X versions are a bit better, but the Switch 2 edition is at least respectable now. In this version, you get updated textures, resolutions up to 1440p, longer draw distances, a decently consistent 30 frames per second, and the new mouse controls, and you get all of the content updates that they've added since launch, such as the photo mode. The upgrade does unfortunately cost 10 bucks, but if you want to just stick with the original Switch 1 version, then you'll still notice a bump in performance at least. The textures will still look god-awful, but the frame rate is essentially a locked 30 frames per second. If you've never played this game, then I would definitely recommend it, especially now that it's actually worth your money on the Switch 2. Down to our top 3, let's talk about The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. You know what? Throw the Link's Awakening remake in there as well. Link's Awakening ran fairly well on the original Switch, but it did have some performance issues when exploring the open world portions of the map. Echoes of Wisdom, built in the same engine, adds in some pretty intense gameplay mechanics similar to Tears of the Kingdom. That, plus bigger open world areas to explore, caused Echoes of Wisdom to drastically drop in frame rates when exploring or getting into certain encounters. Visually, the game still looked decent, in large part because of its art style, but the overall performance was less than desirable. Thankfully, both of these gems got a free Switch 2 update that makes them run unbelievably well on the new hardware. A gorgeous 4K resolution, HDR support, and now a locked 30 frames per second. I know these games don't really look like they'd be the most demanding, but comparing how they ran on the Switch 1 with the Switch 2 really highlights how much stronger this new console is. Plus, these are just really great games that I would recommend to anyone. If you're looking for a bit of a shorter, self-contained single-player experience, then I don't think you can go wrong picking up Link's Awakening or Echoes of Wisdom for the Switch 2. Now at our number 2 spot, I got a bit of a cheat. Let's talk about a few different Nintendo Switch games that will be getting Switch 2 updates in the future. Some of these games have already received performance updates, such as Splatoon 3, but a couple others won't be polished up until a little bit later. Earlier this week, Nintendo dropped a trailer out of nowhere, highlighting Splatoon 3 on the Switch 2 and an exclusive new spin-off called Splatoon Raiders. I have no clue what exactly this game mode is supposed to be, and based on what I could find online, everyone else is in the same boat. Anyway, with the free Switch 2 update that rolled out this week, players in the new console get a big jump with performance and visual fidelity. On top of that, Splatoon 3 players get a whole new collection of weapons to use, some better stat tracking stuff, cross-gen play, and a new map. Super Mario Party Jamboree is getting a $20 expansion for the Switch 2 called the Jamboree TV Upgrade Pack. The expansion is slated to release on July 24th and adds new game modes, camera and microphone support, mouse control, and of course, a boost to performance and resolution. And lastly, Kirby and the Forgotten Land will also be getting an exclusive $20 expansion titled Star-Crossed World, which drops August 28th. The game will get a nice performance and resolution upgrade as well as new levels and character abilities. Looks pretty dope, but I'm not sure if I want to drop 20 bucks a pop for these. I guess we'll have to wait and see how much content we're actually getting for that price. But finally, at number 1, we have to talk about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. In my opinion, these games have the largest improvement out of any game I've tested so far on my Switch 2. The resolution and, oh my god, the frame rate get a huge improvement. It's actually insane to see the difference between the two versions. On top of an enormous performance boost, the Switch 2 version also has much denser Pokemon populations when you're exploring the open world. This version of Scarlet and Violet feels like the version that Game Freak intended for us to play, which is why I kinda buy into the theory that Scarlet and Violet were meant to be a Switch 2 title before being bumped up to an original Switch game for whatever reason. The game just feels so much better on the Switch 2. It's hard to imagine that it wasn't developed with this console in mind. I've hated on this game so much before in the past, and while some things such as the layout of the story or the quest design or the rudimentary textures aren't all fixed with the Switch 2 update, this is by far the best way to enjoy these games. For real, I can finally now actually recommend this game to people. And that's my list. A lot of games get great performance boosts on Nintendo's new piece of hardware, but in my opinion, these 10 games get the biggest improvements. But now I want to hear from you guys. What games have you been playing on your Switch 2? What Switch 1 games have had the biggest improvement in your mind? Give us your recommendations. I want to hear all your thoughts down below in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It means a lot. I appreciate you guys as always, and I'll catch you in the next one.